Let's take a look at sets inside of Tableau. The dashboard you're seeing has different types of sets in action in each of the visualizations that are present. It's a great way to provide intuitive highlighting and focus and easy comparisons. And even with it being the paradigm of an in or out of the set, you still can provide a lot of information and quickly highlight specific, in this example, specific months where the costs were the highest of this particular business. So it's a great way to add frameworks that can be reused, they're flexible, and they can be dynamic. So how do we build a set in Tableau? Well, there's a couple different ways. One is very informal, where I would shift select a few things, and then I would have this dialog box that would be presented to me. And I have the double rings, which represents, and you can see by the dropdown, it says create set. That would be one way to do it. A little bit more formal way to do it is to go, this is treatment types that are on this y-axis. If I go over to treatment types in my data pane, and I go ahead and use the drop-down caret, and I go to create, I have the ability to create several things from this dimension that's in my data table, and I can create a set here. There's 3 different groupings of controls here. There's general, condition, and top. And I want to be sure and say, even if I'm not going to pick off specific ones from this list, I want to say use all, so that if my data is updated and has other labels that get included, it will pick those up and include them in the future as well. So for this example, I just want to take a look at the top of my treatments, and I'm going to go by field, and so I'll be selecting that. I have the choice of taking top or bottom here. I can tell it how many, 10 is fine. And because this particular dialog is sitting on top of this worksheet with the treatment types and the average cost, that's going to be reflected in the dialog box here that Tableau presents me. I'm going to say okay to this, and I'll need to give it a title as well. So how do we go? Top 10. Say okay. It's added as a reusable asset over here in my data pane. Then I can pull that onto color, and instead of it being colored with the continuous color that would previously was continuously colored based on the cost, now I have in and out of the set based on it being a top 10 expense or cost or not. So it's a very straightforward to build. To dive a little deeper on possibilities with sets in Tableau, I'd like to show you a few additional techniques. First of all, you're looking at the top 5, and it is a set that was created, and we will take a look at it here. This is done using the edit set dialog, and we are going to select the field and tell how many, tell it what the calculation we're using to set the threshold, and then it's applied by pulling it into color. I've done this with top 5 here on color for this viz. The next one, we did the same kind of idea, but we did the bottom 5 and same idea. To be able to combine them into a single viz, which is often the case, which we want to do, we can combine in separate sets into one. So by selecting both of these two, the top 5, bottom 5, and then right clicking on it, I can create a combined set. And that is indeed what I did when I created this one. So this is what it's going to look like now. It gives me the chance to do more specifics on how I want these two sets to be accounted for. And that would depend on the data that you're using. In this case, I know for a fact that this, because of the number of treatments I've got here, I don't have any intersecting data, and that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my outer edges. So this particular selection is the correct one for this, but notice we do have quite a few other choices, even the ability to discuss a separator with Tableau. I'm going to say okay to this. That gives me that single item to pull onto the color marks card. So looking at another scenario that could easily happen, we have our top and bottom identified here with using our set. Someone adds an additional filter to the visualization. In this case, they want to only look at the admitting department of orthopedics. Well, my top and bottom 5 are not going to be necessarily the same. Well, how do I get it to respect this admitting department as a predicate for evaluating for top and bottom 5? Well, I need to change the order of execution by adding this to context. Context filters are an excellent way to help Tableau know what you wish to do in terms of execution order. In this visualization, if I'm wishing to set the criteria for an average cost threshold as well as an average wait time threshold, I can make two separate sets and then work to put them together as I have here. Alternatively, I can also use the edit set filter dialog and go to a condition and use a formula where I implant it here instead of having to have it separated into a set element in my data pane. That's another way to get this done. Additionally, I can turn those into dynamic values using a parameter and a legend, the parameter legend, to allow a user to input those values dynamically and then come into my formula and complete instead of having a hard-coded threshold, I can put in the parameter reference. And that way, when the selection is made over here on the legend, this formula is updated, it becomes dynamic, and then it'll only highlight things that meet the current criteria based on the selection that is made in that one moment.